And that's when I said, "That's not my dog. That's my wife." Sorry, no, I couldn't help myself. That's in the Gentlemanly Warfare movie.
I want the rest of the I want the rest of the joke, not just the punchline. You
Yes,
just told me the punchline. Give me the joke, Jose. Come on, the whole joke.
Well, that would be a spoiler because it's a film that's not actually out yet, which no one has any reference to because literally we've just hit record and no one knows what we're babbling on about.
It's in the trailer.
In the trailer to what?
The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I did say.
Yeah, Jose did say this.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. He's whispering because he's tired.
Yeah, but at least on the bright side, it's still bright outside in the UK now, which is nice. Look, sunshine.
I'm actually going to do a beach shoot later after this.
Beach shoot. Oh my god. You know, I'll beat you off, man.
I'll beat you off.
There will be no one beaching anyone off on this podcast. Hi and welcome to the We Needed Roads podcast. I'm Neil, your host, and today I'm joined by my OG co-host David. David, how's it going?
Hey, I'm glad that I'm your OG, my man. Me and you, we go way back. We're 97 deep, and I was there for probably about 50 of them.
I don't get that reference.
97
Pods,
deep. 97 episodes. This is 97th episode. Man, it has been a long day for you.
It's been a long day for me. Yeah, and of course we're joined by our US correspondent, Mr. Jose Lopez.
Greetings, folks. Greetings.
Nice. He didn't do the cheers thing yet, which
no, that's my sign off.
Oh,
yeah. Jose likes to enter with pretending everyone's aliens or pretending he's the alien.
I'm the alien because I say awkwardly appropriate things like "hello."
Yeah, that's weird. No one says hello these days.
See, awkward, perfect.
Weirdo. And Ben is off being an international man of mystery this week, and if he told us where he was, well, he'd have to kill us. And as we established recently, he knows Kung Fu, so he actually could.
Can't we just look up his tour dates to see where he is?
Shh. Don't pull back the curtain too far. Don't pull back the curtain too far. In what we've been watching, I'll be reviewing from the cinema, not me actually in the cinema, but films I saw in the cinema recently, Dev Patel's Monkey Man, Alex Garland's Civil War, and Sally Wainwright's Renegade Nell on Disney+. David's going to be reviewing The First Omen and Immaculate. And Jose was lucky enough to get a preview of Guy Ritchie's new film, or was he? Lucky, that is, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. And as always, we're going to try and keep these reviews as spoiler-free as possible. So, first up in news, David, Dunkin' Egg. What is Dunkin' Egg? And isn't that just what we do with our toast in the morning?
It is what you do with your toast in the morning. So Dunkin' Egg is a prequel to the Game of Thrones series or the Song of Ice and Fire series written by George R. R. Martin. So it's set in Westeros and the Seven Kingdoms. And it tells the story of Sir Duncan the Tall and Aegon the Unlikely. I think it's that Aegon the Fifth Targaryen. So Aegon the Unlikely, and it's very much
that is a terrible nickname.
Yeah. And we've just got casting news come out for the. No, it makes sense, Aegon the Unlikely, because he was the fifth born and he becomes king. That's why he's called Aegon the Unlikely. Basically, everyone dies off in front of him, so that's going to be a spoiler.
Spoilers,
but but yeah, we got casting news of who's going to play Duncan, who's going to play Egg. So Egg is going to be played by Egg's his nickname. He's called Egg. Dexter Solancel, who is the little boy who's been in the Hunger Games, Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes. But the most interesting casting, I think, was the casting of Dunk, who's Peter Claffey. And if you, like everybody else, doesn't know who Peter Claffey is, Neil, no. Neither does IMDb, because he doesn't even have a picture on IMDb. That's how unknown.
I thought I was going somewhere then.
The actor is. He's in a TV show called Wreck, Quicksand.
Oh,
Bad
I've
Sisters.
heard of that show. I've seen some of that. It's a cruise ship horror show on BBC.
Yes, yeah, he's in that. So so Duncan, he's called Duncan the Tall or Dunk the Lunk or any of that sort of stuff. So yeah, he's very tall. He's meant to be, I think, 6'10", basically, or 7 foot. He's basically a 7-foot knight. He's a man giant. So they've obviously needed to find an actor who's fucking big. Who's going to dwarf everybody else.
Wow.
I'd have thought maybe the gent that plays Jack Reacher.
Alan Richardson.
I mean, he's a bit busy with being Jack Reacher for the rest of time.
Yeah, but he's the sort of person that you would think would play the role just because he's huge. But anyway, I don't know this, but and I don't know this actor, but I love the fact that this person's being given a career-changing role potentially. From the back of this, he's going to be a name people will recognize. He's going to be a face people recognize, as long as the show's successful anyway, which hopefully it will be.
And at worst, he'll be henchman number one in a lot of really bad action movies for the rest of his life.
Exactly. I mean, that's not. It's a good paycheck to get, right? And it's probably better than what he might have got without the break.
David, why should we care about this show? Why do we need another prequel?
It's going to be great. It will be like, do you remember Arya and the Hound in Game of Thrones? When Game of Thrones was really good, when it was peak Thrones, and it was just them doing their like buddy cop, sort of missions, roaming around Westeros, just sort of doing their own thing.
Slaughtering,
it's going to basically be that. Okay. It's just going to be two people. It's going to be like that, like The Last of Us, like God of War, or like those video games, or like you've got the adult and you've got the child and you've got the relationship between them. It's going to be that dynamic.
With my fantasy, I need a
it
bit
will
of
have humor.
Good.
100%. It's quite a more light-hearted. Because there's 3 novellas written by George R. R. Martin at the moment. The Hedge Knight.
So 3 seasons then?
Potentially,
maybe more.
Or I think it'll more be like one story will be like 3 or 4 episodes, because it's not a season's because it's a novella. It's a small story.
And most importantly, for fans of Game of Thrones and people who have no idea what this is, when does it take place in the timeline of Game of Thrones?
About 5 generations before Game of Thrones, but after.
So it's post House of the Dragon.
Post House of the Dragon, yeah.
Pre Game of Thrones.
Yeah. It takes place during the Blackfire Rebellion.
Love a good Blackfire Rebellion.
If you know your Game of Thrones lore.
So, I mean, we're a year away from even seeing anything on this right yet, because if they're only in the casting stages, then probably maybe a year, probably close to like a year before we even get any like images or set photos, and then we're probably a year and a half, 2 years before we actually get the pilot for this one out.
Yeah, it was surprising. I mean, I wasn't even 100% aware that it had been greenlit as like this is one of the prequels they were 100% doing, because there was like how many 10 prequel ideas that they had.
And the news kind of not officially came out this week, but they reckon the Jon Snow one is pretty much dead in the water now as well.
Oh wow,
which would be pretty not surprising, because you can't really go further forward in that story without. I
think we said this on previous episodes. What would it be? It would just be Kit Harington being miserable up north with his dogs. Great. Really want to spend hours watching that. And occasionally fight some more wildlings or another threat. Yeah. Okay, David. Well, I am currently on Dunk and Egg, so I need to know.
Well, do you like The Last of Us, or do you like The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
You'll like Dunk and Egg.
Okay.
Simple as that.
That is the way you sell it, David, and that is the way you sell it. Right, next up, we're going to talk some trailers, and we just had the first trailer drop for the 3rd film in director Ty West's Mia Goth trilogy, following X, then its prequel, Pearl. Now we finally have MaXXXine with 3 X's, which sees Goth's adult star Maxine Minx move to LA to become famous in 1985 Hollywood. Now, X was a great 70s-style Texas Chainsaw Massacre homage, and prequel Pearl was like a fucked-up Wizard of Oz cross with Psycho. This time, we see Maxine trying out for real actress roles, just as the very real Night Stalker begins to claim his victims in Hollywood. The film's also added the starriest cast of any of these films so far, with Kevin Bacon as a dodgy-looking private eye, Michelle Monaghan and Bobby Cannavale as detectives, Elizabeth Debicki looks like she's going to be the film within the film's director or producer, and you've also got Moses Sumney, singer Halsey is in it, Lily Collins, and of course, the man with the best agent in Hollywood, bar Pedro Pascal, Giancarlo Esposito is in it as well. Jose, have you seen Pearl or X?
I have not.
Well, now you know what your homework is.
You're missing out. They are fantastic films.
I've always heard they were good films, and to be honest, this trailer just keeps me like it actually makes me want to go back and see the films to see this movie and make more sense.
I mean, you could almost just see X and then this, because this is a direct sequel to X. But I think, and Pearl's a very different film from X. Like I said, it's like this weird cross of Wizard of Oz and Psycho kind of mixed together.
Yeah.
You know, they did Netflix did their like Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake a few years ago, and it was like in the Czech Republic or somewhere, like not actually Texas. Although, admittedly, X was shot in New Zealand of all places as well. So
that's funny.
Well, bizarrely, the pandemic, you can actually thank the pandemic for the success of this, because X was being shot in New Zealand right as the pandemic happened, and they were literally one of the few places in the world where you could still carry on working.
Oh, wow.
And so then, once they'd finished and they were there with the cast and all the sets and everything, they basically approached the studio and went, well, look, we've got an idea for a prequel to this film. We're all here. No one else can do anything. Should we just do it? And they was like, yeah, go ahead.
Wow.
And so, like you say, Mia Goth then co-wrote it with Ty West. But yeah, this one, David, your thoughts on this trilogy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited for it. I think every one of the films previously was like almost a homage to the films from the past. So you had the original film that was like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like you mentioned, and Pearl, which was like your Wizard of Oz style horror film. And this just looks like your classic throwback 80s straight to VHS style horror film that came back in those like 1980s.
Nice.
Well, going through the trailer, we see her looking a little bit more haggard this time. Did you notice in there? There's like she's got several marks on her face.
Yeah, but I can't actually remember how she ends at X. Is she not like in any way scarred from her, encounter?
Physically?
I can't remember.
Yeah,
I mean, she was covered
scarred.
in.
Yeah, I mean, she'll be mentally
blood.
scarred, dude. Yeah, she'll 100%
Definitely
have
mentally
mental
scarred.
scars. But what I will say though, as well, it does sort of remind me. It is sort of a little bit too similar to Pearl in her like, I'm gonna be a star. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna, I'm a star. The attitude that Pearl had, and the mentality that she had, and the fantasizing that she had. And I feel like in this trailer there were some of those fantasizing elements as well, because you see her trailer. So no, the film that she's starring in, which is called it's a sequel to a horror film that she's starring in. I did note it down, but I can't find it in my notes because I'm blind.
The Puritan 2?
The Puritan 2, thank you, Jose.
I'm looking at
You're
Neil's
the man.
notes.
Yeah.
Neil's the man.
That's David's notes. It literally says DL next to it.
Oh, yeah.
This is what happens, Jose, when you add to the document.
I've done that before.
Although you can then lose your place like I did and have no idea what you're saying. Yeah, but she's in the Puritan 2. But the Puritan 2 is having this like massive release at the was it at the Chinese Theatre?
Looks like it, didn't it? Yeah.
And that's obviously never going to happen to a sequel horror film that probably no one really wanted to see a sequel to in the first place that she's starring in. So I feel like that's very much a fantasy element of her being like, I'm a star, I'm going to make it, this is my dream. Except without the Southern accent.
I gotta say that's a really good Southern accent for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you, my man. I've been working on it.
I was going to say, you've got that iconic shot of blood spattering over the VHS tapes, and if you go online, that is so many people's header image now on their social media, on like Twitter or Letterboxd especially. Like you said, David, it's a throwback to like the VHS horror films from the 80s. I thought there's actually alleyway shot, and I got massive Last Night in Soho vibes from that. That first really catchy like simp song on it is called Obsession by a band called Animotion, if you want to find it on Spotify, because it's there and it's very catchy. I feel like it's something you would get in Vice City, isn't it, in like Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah.
And of course, the trailer, the song at the end of the trailer, a song from 1984 by a lady called Laura Branigan, and it was called Self Control, and that was cut. I'm like, from my music and my trailers, that was cut so perfectly to that trailer. And then I went down and realized, and then I read about her life and her career on Wikipedia, and the singer that is, and she died like quite recently.
Oh no!
But her biggest hit was this like 70s gay disco anthem called Gloria.
Wait, Gloria? The Gloria?
That song, Gloria, Gloria.
Oh,
wow!
That song. Gloria. Oh,
yeah,
wait,
same lady.
Is that the song?
Nice.
Okay,
if the disco ball drops down behind your Game of Thrones banner, David, then yes, it indeed is. And holy fuck, that's the Bates Motel. How? Why? How do we feel about that?
Oh, she's definitely on set. There's definitely.
So I reckon she's, because if Psycho 3 came out in 1986, I think, and this takes place in 85 at the very beginning.
Nice detective work, David. Nice detective.
So maybe she's starring in Psycho 3, or she's just having a tour of all the different sort of sets, and that's obviously a very famous set
And of course, then we see the dodgy sheriff character turn up with evidence from 1979. So, do we reckon there was a camera that was running somewhere that no one was aware of from the farmer's daughter when all the murders happened
Maybe.
at the end of X?
Like they had like a Ring doorbell or something.
Yeah, but you know,
It just captured everything. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, who does Esposito play? Because he's always a baddie. It'd be funny actually if he wasn't a baddie in this, because he always plays
Richard
baddie.
Ramirez.
Literal answer.
I don't think. Well, no, I don't think he's in. And like you said, you definitely see the parallels in Pearl where she's pushed to project her dream role because, like, the director says to her, "Don't let outside stuff interfere with this." And she's like, "It won't," or something like that. And like, I'm going to take care of it. Then you see her get tooled up with all the weapons. Is there a spoiler here? Because you see that shot of Kevin Bacon's character holding the gun with that symbol on it, and you see that same symbol on some of the bodies at one point that are being pulled out of the lake or out
The bodies
somewhere.
being pulled out of the lake, is that not, or the bodies that you see, was that not the symbol that Richard Ramirez used? Like it was that satanic symbol, the circle with the star and the pentagram.
Yeah.
That's what Richard Ramirez used to cut onto people when he killed them.
Right, but didn't we see Bacon's character with a gun that had a kind of?
I don't think it was that symbol. I think it was something different. But I think there was a couple of red herrings to people that.
Yeah, they're not going to blatantly drop it in the trailer, are they? They're going to mess with us.
Yeah. And they'll mess with us within the film as well, and it'll end up being Elizabeth Debicki that's killed everybody. But
I'd be okay with that.
But yeah, I also think Richard Ramirez is probably going to be not, the main killer. Yeah, I think it was going to be set during the time where he's doing all the killings, but I think maybe the real killer, like our film killer, will be using him as like almost a.
It's got a bit of scream to it. It could have a bit of scream to it, couldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going to be
Jamie Kennedy.
It's going to be like
Jamie Kennedy
sort of flashbacks. Yeah.
Or Nev Campbell. Nev Campbell would be a good choice. Imagine if it's like a new character and it's Nev Campbell and she's a killer in this.
I honestly, if I had to guess right now, I put my hat on Elizabeth Debicki being
just the director who's had enough of the shitty actress.
Well, that is Scream 3, right? The director that just does the killing. So I don't maybe.
And it is the third film in this trilogy. So yeah, maybe. Well, this film is due out in the States. Happy 4th of July weekend, Jose, on the 5th of July.
Yay.
And we have to wait an extra month over here in the UK. But do you know what? That is still a lot better than the previous two films. It was over a year from X coming out to it coming out in the cinema to it coming out anywhere else.
That was stupid, man. Why was that as well?
Just distribution, I'm guessing. But yeah, it was especially when they could see like the films were really kind of getting bigger. And
well, the issue is everybody just streamed it that wanted to see it. So even when it was actually released in the UK, anyone that wanted to have seen it in the first place just took it elsewhere from the US or wherever it was already being streamed.
I remember going to, it was out to buy on DVD, not even streaming or digital. It was out to buy on DVD in the States. Pearl, this is, before it came out in the cinemas in the UK. And I remember going to see a preview screening of it like 7 months later. And I was like, it's not really a preview because I've literally seen the film already. But I just like, well, if you go and, you can watch
you didn't
films
just admit to stealing there, Neil, did you?
No, I paid for it and I used a VPN.
Okay.
I know they don't like us doing it. I know the studios don't like us doing it, but hey, don't make us wait. And also, if you really want to see a film, then you can still go and see it in the cinema when it comes out.
As you did as well. You did. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I told everyone about it, and everyone was like, and it was kind of half and half on audience reaction. Some people were like, yeah.
They are great films. Yeah, they are great. At the moment, I think X is my favourite. I genuinely think this MaXXXine looks like it's going to be the best of the lot. And I think Mia Goth even said it's the best script of the lot. And Mia Goth...
Didn't she co-write it, though?
She probably did, yeah. And Mia Goth is like that... She is that actress, isn't she, at the moment? Especially as that horror actress. And she's so
Have you seen Infinity Pool yet, David?
I haven't yet. With James, is it?
Everyone's seen the clip, though, haven't you?
Yeah.
What are you doing, you little baby? Someone said, you see Mia Goth in all these films doing her American accent, and then when you see her in interviews, you don't realize she sounds like a high-pitched Victorian child when she speaks.
Have you heard her, Jose?
I don't think I have.
Honestly, Google
after this podcast,
YouTube. Just everyone doing it. If you've never heard her actually speak, just Google any interview with her. It's It's honestly, it's almost unnerving how.
Not now, Jose.
I can hear different her voice is.
I can hear.
Not the first time we've had someone listen to things.
And we had comments on the MaXXXine trailer as well. Cage Fighting Pod said, next to the new Apes film, MaXXXine is probably my most hotly anticipated film still to come this year. The MaXXXine trilogy has the potential to achieve the rare feat of a trio of excellent movies. Let's hope they don't pearl it and release it 8 months later in the UK. And we have a comment as well from Stu World Order. David, do you want to take this one?
Stu said, I hope MaXXXine is better than Pearl, but the trailer's got me worried it's going to be bad. I need to rewatch X before it comes out so I can see if it follows well enough. You know what, Stu? He is not afraid to he's not a
rock
sheep,
the boat.
That's for sure. Yeah, he says it how it is. He likes what he likes, and I love it. I love him for it. He's because he's not afraid to just be a sheep and follow everybody else's ideas and oh, everybody likes this, so I'm gonna like it. No,
I have to say, I'm really surprised he didn't like the trailer.
Well, he didn't like Pearl. I think that was more surprising.
Pearl, I think X was kind of like just a bit of general horror hit. I think Pearl was a bit because Pearl's such a different film.
Gotcha.
I just think that's kind of where some people perhaps who loved X didn't like Pearl as much, and vice versa. And a trailer that's definitely not going to split reaction. Well, and a film that's not going to split reaction at all will be problematic when it comes out later in the year. Is the next trailer we're going to be talking about, and that film is Joker 2. How do you pronounce this, David?
Why are you giving it to me?
Electric
Folie à deux. That's what I'm going with.
I'm going Folie à deux.
Folie à deux.
Folie à deux.
Wow, it's like Jose has been replaced by a Frenchman.
You got a bit Canadian in you there, Jose.
Oh, oui. Yeah, that's all I know.
La fenêtre. That means the window. There you go.
Vous allez voir ce soir?
Oh. Parlez-vous?
No.
Français?
And apologies to all our listeners in France. Although, do you know what? I don't think we've ever had a listener in France.
I think my one was sexual.
There we go. Oh.
I think I said, "Did you want to come to bed with me tonight?" I think that's the lyric.
Well, it's a good thing we're adults.
We have I have to click the explicit tab on this podcast every time.
Jose, I expect to see you later.
So, Folie à deux, which, as well as being French, one of the definitions, and I've seen loads of different definitions, so God knows which is the real one, but the definition I read says, Folie à deux is defined as an identical or similar mental disorder affecting two or more individuals, usually the members of a close family. Well, without getting all incesty and Lannister-like, that nicely sums up the Joker and Harley's relationship here. And yeah, this is all kinds of strange to talk about. Firstly, they never intended a sequel, but then the film's Oscar success, especially Phoenix and the film's massive box office, obviously forced them to return with the big truck of money. And also, once they announced that Lady Gaga would be playing Harley Quinn, and this would be a
How dare you, sir? How dare you? Lady Gaga.
No, it's Gaga.
Gaga. Ugh.
Gaga.
Sorry. Go ahead.
You got me confused now. Is it actually Gaga, or is it? Because I've said Gaga, so now I'm worried that I've said her name wrong.
Everyone says
all my
Gaga
life.
except for
I think
Neil.
you can say it in your own way.
Well, except for how it's meant to be said. How does she say it? That's what's correct.
Lady Gaga. I'm saying Lady Gaga. And once they announced Lady Gaga would be playing Harley Quinn, and this would be a twisted musical, even more people lost their shit in good and bad ways. Now, the reception to the first film was really divided. There's a lot of critics took against it for the previous work of director Phillips. He was known for teen comedies like Road Trip and things like that.
You said that like we've discussed, man. Road Trip's awesome.
Oh, Road Trip's awesome. Tiny salmon swimming in the stream. Love Road Trip, man. I love it. Yeah, man. What happened to Tom Green? Freddie got fingered. That's what happened, David. I think there's just a general bit of snootiness about Phillips and he can't just go from that to suddenly making serious dramatic films. And then there was the others who were just well, it's just a Scorsese ripoff. Which, granted, it is. It just weaves together the king of comedy and Taxi Driver. No matter, though, what your opinion on Phillips's work or the film itself, the film was a massive hit, which is why we're getting the sequel. What the world needs now is love. Burt Bacharach, nice choice. And I love the idea that we use music to make us whole again. So, again, does this mean, though, all the musical sequences are just going to be in their heads? And that, basically, the same with Quinn, that all these musical moments are going to be her way, are going to be in her head. I think a lot of this film could be from her perspective, but as we know, the actual definition of Folie à deux means they shared kind of madness. So I reckon a lot of this film could literally just be them in a mental home, the two of them, and all the other stuff's just happening in their heads.
Hmm.
And I think they kind of tip that because there's that really nice shot in the trailer where they're dancing, and they go from being on the stage with all the makeup on to dancing like in their regular clothes in the streets in the middle of a riot.
Are they going to keep? Is Harley Quinn going to be how she is in the? Because she's a psychiatrist to him, isn't she? In the comics,
It looks like it.
Is it going to be that? Is that going to be the case again? Because
It
she's
doesn't
shown like
seem to be.
it doesn't seem to be, right? Yeah, it seems to be more like she's another inmate, or she's just in the choir, isn't she? At one point, like doing a little bit of choir singing.
When the first time the Gaga enters, she says, "I'm nobody."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was interesting. I agree with you though, Neil. I think it's going to be a lot of it's going to be from Harley Quinn's perspective, and I also think a lot of the musical moments are going to be their way of how she's like slowly becoming more fascinated with him and slowly like falling in love with him, and how she sort of becomes, because it's a very toxic relationship that they have in the comics, obviously.
I feel like the end of the film is going to be like this one twist where it's going to be something like, do you know what would be clever actually? That it's a kind of, you remember like he has his whole relationship with Zazie Beetz' character in the first film, and then he's never actually spoken to her. He's just imagined the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
What if you have that, but with him and her, with Gaga? So Gaga imagines this relationship, they break free, they go on the run. That'd be really clever, actually. Like, she is a psychiatrist working there, but in her head, she sees herself as one of the inmates, and you kind of have it all that, and then she like breaks out, goes on a crime spree, then gets locked up in Arkham to doing it to be put in with him or something. And then like literally like the joke, as it were, is when she goes up, "I did this all for you, baby," or something like that. And he's like, "Who are you?" Oh man, if I've called that right, there you go.
That'd be cool, man. That's I mean, you get really excited and passionate when you've got an idea that's just come to you. You love to see it. Love to hear
Gaga looks more like the Crow than Bill Skarsgård in some shots as well.
Yeah, let's not get.
I would rather have said a Lady Gaga, the Crow, than what we got in that other trailer, man. And also, the music could be better as well.
It's actually like graining on me your pronunciation of her name now.
Good. The end of time.
I can imagine a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, fucking hell, I'm turning off at this point."
Oh man,
I really like Lady Gaga. He keeps fucking saying her name weird.
Also, at 1 minute 33 in the trailer, holy fuck, that's Alan Partridge.
Who?
Oh, Jose, you're not going to be allowed into England now.
Is he a British folk?
He's a character played for, 20 odd years by a British comedian called Steve Coogan.
At what time, sorry? Oh, him, Alan Partridge. Oh, is that what you said, Alan Partridge?
Yeah, Alan Partridge at 133.
I know. Yeah, of course I know Alan Partridge. Yeah. Have you not seen like Partridge moments, Jose? Is that not a thing in America? Like, he just did an Alan Partridge, or is that not a thing?
I'm looking up who it is.
How would you explain a partridge?
Oh, Alan Partridge. Yeah, he's great.
I don't believe you for a second, Jose. You're a terrible liar.
He was in Tropic Thunder. He was great as the horrible director. And obviously he's done many, many things. Like IMDb says, I Am Alan Partridge, this time with Alan Partridge. Mid-Morning Matters.
With Alan Partridge.
I think there's a pattern.
You can stop now, Jose. You can stop. You've embarrassed yourself and our country enough. Let's just get that last really cool shot with the lipstick on the glass of the cell. That was really
cool.
Well,
here's the thing.
Oh my god.
When does that happen? Because that usually happens when there's a prison inmate and a visitor, not two inmates at the same time.
Well, we don't know she's an inmate, but that was all just us spitballing, wasn't it? So,
okay.
Well, like if it's all in her head, then it doesn't happen at all. But Matt, whoever comes up with that shot, oh my god,
that's great.
They need a raise. They need all the bonuses. Like, it was so good.
That was good cinematography, good all around.
Well, I think we're all quite excited by this. Does it hit the same levels of success as the first film? Because I mean, she has
it'll hit more if anything, because it'll hit more.
I think so.
But it'll have the Gaga effect. And
the Gaga
because
effect.
The first film was sort of like a snowball, wasn't it? It started off, and then it kept snowballing and snowballing. The more and more people heard about it, and I think people watched it maybe after initial release.
I think the problem with why some critics didn't like it and why like some people didn't like it is that it become like the go-to film for a lot of like basement dwelling incel guys, didn't it? So the good thing is if they make it a musical and Lady Gaga is like at the front of it, then they're not going to watch it anyway. So it's brilliant. That's what I like. It's just like a big fuck you to like the people you don't really want supporting your film anyway. But will she get her Oscar for this? Because she really wants an Oscar.
Has she not received one?
No, she's only done like 2 or 3 films, man.
But really good films.
and then doing this.
She's annoyingly talented, isn't she? She's one of those that's like you can't like one of those people that you kind of get a little frustrated about how talented they are. Just because we're like talentless hacks. I mean, I'll speak for myself there. Maybe Jose's got talent. He's a good photographer.
Aw, thank you.
But
You know what? Childish Gambino comes to mind. What's his name?
Donald Glover.
Yeah.
Donald Glover.
And again,
he's too damn
insanely talented.
Yeah.
You know, before
Troy and Abbott in the morning.
Yeah, funny, stand-up comedian.
I mean, I know Ben hates him, and before he kind of ruined his acting career, Jared Leto, you know, he was on the back of an Oscar and a Grammy win in the same year.
Oh wow, okay, I didn't know that.
Quite a talented bloke as well.
I mean, the ladies like him.
And enough Jared Leto talk on this podcast, please.
Hey.
Right. In fact, I would say, David, speak no evil of Jared Leto.
Oh, let's get into it, Neil.
That's a segue.
There's a new trailer that's just dropped for Speak No Evil. It's a Blumhouse horror film being released. It's starring James McAvoy. The big issue I have with this film is it is a Hollywood remake of an absolutely like outstanding Danish horror film. I'm pretty sure I've even reviewed it earlier in quite an early episode on the podcast. That came out in 2022. So it's a remake of a film that only came out 2 years ago. And the story is all about a family that befriend another family on holiday. They decide to visit them at their home. And then, you know, obviously because it's a horror film, it ain't your usual nice, like, family holiday. Like, shit hits the fan. It was probably my number one horror film that came out that year. It was so unnerving in, like, every sense of the word. And the ending, well, like obviously without any spoilers, because people are going to want to probably see this new Hollywood version.
I want to see the original now.
It is, oh my god, it is insane. That it proper sticks with you, and it's still stuck with me. It's like it's not left. So it kind of begs the question: why remake it? Like in the first place, you know, like the new trailer is quite literally shot for shot of the remake. I started watching it. I was like, oh, there's a new horror trailer because I quite like my horror films. So I thought, oh, I'll watch this. And then I was like within the first 10 seconds of watching that trailer, I was like, hang on a fucking second. I've seen this film before. The trailer even shows some of the key like moments and scares from the original film.
Wow.
Such as like in the trailer, it shows the boy's tongue is cut off and he's going like this.
Whoa.
Showing his tongue. Like, that's in the fucking trailer, mate. Yeah, it's in the trailer.
Wow.
That's like a big moment, like a big reveal kind of thing in the original, and it's filled with loads of those little moments, and it does sort of make you think, what are they doing? Why did they show that? I read an article, I think from Total Film, saying that these are all like you know, they're probably going to take a new direction with it because it's Blumhouse. You know, they make good horror films. It's probably going to be like a different.
Yeah.
They're probably going to do something different with it. Going to do something Hollywood with it. They're going to make a different ending.
I don't think they will. Do you?
Well, probably not. No, I hope they don't, because the ending was fucking amazing. I
mean, if you've got a brilliant ending to a horror film, right? I think it's a simple thing of it was brilliant, but no one watched it because it's Danish, so let's do it in English.
That's honestly, that's such a shame if that's the case. I also think this new trailer was a bloody awful marketing idea as well, because anyone that would have seen it, like would have seen the original, is not going to want to watch this version because it's the same film. The only difference is it's got James McAvoy in it, and like James McAvoy is a fucking amazing actor, and I genuinely really think he'll be great in this role. But is that a reason to go and watch it just because he's in it? I mean, I'm probably going to watch it anyway, if I'm honest, because I'm probably going to watch this film just to see how like if it is basically the same film.
Well, where can we see the original at the minute, David?
I'm pretty sure it's on Shudder. I'm a good 90% sure I saw it on Shudder originally, and I'm sure it's probably still there. And if you want to check out, it is honestly a fantastic horror film.
Okay,
definitely one to watch.
Speak No Evil.
Speak No Evil.
And well, he wasn't doing any speaking. Jose was tapping away like a madman, and a trailer that just dropped yesterday that he wanted to quickly shove into there. And I mean, I have to agree with this as well. It is a trailer for Richard Linklater's Hitman, starring Glenn Powell. This has been called a sexy film. That's the key.
I think Glenn Powell in it. Does it need any more than that?
I mean,
well, the actress Adria. Do you know what it reminded me of? So David, the basic setup is he is a hitman, but he's not actually a hitman. He pretends to.
Yeah, I've seen the trailer for it. Yeah,
you saw the trailer, right? Cool.
Yeah. Is he a prostitute?
No, he helps the police.
He's an actor.
He's an actor. He helps police arrest people who actually try to kill other people.
Oh, from the
And so
trailer,
he-
I kind of thought he was a prostitute that was pretending to be a
I mean, it was a
pretending to be a
sexy trailer.
hitman, like as the thing that people wanted to see hitmen, as and sleep
No,
with
when
hitmen.
they say hitman, it's literal hitman. People hire, quote unquote, hire.
But people hire him because they think he's a hitman,
Yeah, and so that's obviously illegal in real life as well.
and
as
then
in
you
movies.
and then you can get arrested for it. That's his job.
Yes. So I just wanted to mention it because just so much good buzz. But Glenn
Yeah.
Powell has honestly, when I first saw him, I thought, okay, just another pretty boy actor, nothing to really write home about. But I feel like with this trailer especially, he's playing different characters within the movie, kind of like, but not quite like Nutty Professor, because they're, those are really goofy characters.
He's
but
not got
almost
fat
like,
suits on, no.
no, but it almost reminds me of Val Kilmer in The Saint. Do you guys even remember that?
We try not to. We try.
He was a thief, and he actually used different disguises. But what Val Kilmer did is he really made those disguises very subtle and just very good. And I feel like Glenn Powell's executing it on the same level, almost, honestly, just like
A lot of our sort of film Twitter circle, man, have just been raving about this film since it
nice.
had its like festival appearances last year, and also we literally did an episode on Linklater a few months back, man. Like me and Sarah from Popcorn Chat, we did our top 10 Linklater films, and we were talking about this then, like, oh, it was coming out next year, can't wait, and it's coming out on Netflix of all places, June 7th on Netflix worldwide.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm a little disappointed it's not getting a theatrical release, but if anything,
it is in like a limited one, I think, a very limited
think,
run,
limited.
select cinemas. Yeah, it comes out,
okay.
and it's only like 2 weeks before it drops on Netflix as well. So I don't think it's going to get a lot of.
Yeah, but I'm just really happy to see this guy going after it, because
I feel like he's doing a one for me, one for you approach to his filmmaking.
Yeah.
And then next up he's got Twisters.
Actually,
his style rise is like,
you're right,
isn't it?
And
Massive.
here's the kicker: he was actually a co-writer, according to the trailer.
But yeah, Linklater does that a lot, like with his lead actors in films. So he did it with Judy Delphi and Ethan Hawke in the Before Sunrise trilogy. Not maybe in the first one, I think, but in the second and third films. And I mean, yeah, it clearly works for him. It clearly works for the actors, because that's why we all love working with him. And he's getting one of the best reviewed. Do you know what it reminded me of a little bit in terms of like the kind of banter and all that? Steven Soderbergh's Out of Sight, George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah,
that's kind of like dialogue. That's probably like the lazy choice, because everyone goes, "Oh, what's a sexy crime film?" Oh, that. Well, this is the new version of it as well.
I just remember the part when the guy's like, "Let's tussle," and she beats him up. It's like, yeah, we tussled.
I mean, I immediately fell in love with Adrena Arjona for that from that trailer.
Oh yeah, she's so sexy.
Going off script even more. M. Night Shyamalan's new trailer dropped for a film yesterday called Trap, starring Josh Hartnett. And
actually,
everyone was like raving about it, and then they kind of give away the twist. But this is a really clever trailer.
Be the twist, though, yeah.
But that's what makes the trailer really clever. Because so the setup for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, and if you haven't, just go watch it. You can pause us; it's fine. It's like 2 minutes of your life, then come back. And the idea is basically that Josh Hartnett is a dad taking his daughter to see her favorite pop star in concert. So far, so good.
Raven.
Is
it Raven? Yeah, I think so.
Who apparently is actually one of M. Night Shyamalan's daughters and has a musical career that is being launched through this film, apparently.
Oh, wow. What a surprise.
Smart marketing.
Smart marketing, yeah. Because even in the trailer thing, it has a link to, I think her name's Seleka or something like that, and it literally says, music available on blah, blah, blah. So it's got a link to her stuff in the trailer.
That's amazing.
Hey, do you know what, man? I yes, it's nepotism, but,
He is in every one of his movies. Like
and not a large part, though, is he?
He loves to put himself into his movies, so to put his daughter in a movie is not a surprise.
Yeah,
he's got several daughters, and one of them is actually quite an established she's a really good up and coming writer director herself, because they work together on the show Servant on Apple TV with the scary nun lady from First Omen, David, that you're going to be talking about later. Hell Niger Free, who was superb in that, and had Lauren Ambrose and Toby Kebbell and Rupert Grint. They were your main four of that. Brilliant shows, all 4 seasons, and they're out on Apple, but they're only half an hour, which is also a really good watch. Josh Hartnett and his daughter are at this concert, and he's like, I just need to go to the bathroom. Walks past the merch stand, sees Ben there. No, that wasn't Ben. And he says to the guys...
This is the one bit in the trailer where I'm like, that's so unrealistic. But explain it first, because I've disrupted you.
Because he says to the merch guy, hey, what's going on? Because he sees all like these like extra security guys and police around, and he's like, oh, like the most exposition guy ever. Like, well, I shouldn't really say it. He says, he even says, I really shouldn't say anything, but, and then just explains the plot of the film to
Don't
Josh
tell anyone,
Hartnett.
but have you heard of that guy, the butcher?
He's here.
He's fucking here, man. He's here, and the police are gonna get him. It's a trap. The whole concert's a trap.
Then Josh Hartnett goes to the bathroom and boots up his phone, and he checks his like basement camera, and he's got a dude tied up in his basement. Josh Hartnett is the butcher.
Oh wow!
No, they give that away in the trailer, so there's got to be something more, man. There's got to be.
I reckon his daughter's the butcher.
Do you know what? I don't reckon there is a twist. I reckon that's a twist. He's like, do you know what? Fuck these people always going on about a twist. I'm giving you the twist in the trailer, and you're just gonna watch.
There's an M Light twist. Sorry.
Well, I mean, that's not a twist. That's a reveal.
Yeah.
Knock at the Cabin didn't have a major twist at the end. They changed the ending slightly from the book, but it wasn't really a twist.
No, I mean, I think that's just a standard reveal. Like, oh, this is the character. Kind of like
it's the premise, isn't it?
Yeah, the premise.
You could. It wouldn't have worked as well if you gone, oh, there's a dad and a daughter at a concert. Oh, and there's a serial killer there.
I thought the film was going. The second he goes, oh, I'm going to go to the toilet. I'll be back in a bit. I thought he'd come back and she wouldn't be there, and that was the film. And he's trying to find her in the concert somewhere. I thought that's where it was going, and then I was like, oh, okay, this went a completely fucking different direction than I expected.
But yeah, hey man, everyone's talking about it, so the trailer's done its job.
If anyone's ever been to a concert before, you cannot get the merch guy's attention, who's fucking got a massive queue in front of him, just by going, "Hey man, can you come over here for a second?" That ain't gonna fucking happen.
Actually, David, the gig was on. He went to the toilet during the gig, so
that's true. But the merch stand was really busy still, and in fact, the whole bloody area was really busy. I mean, that's another unrealistic thing, then, right? With the whole concert,
Ben can argue the point with you when he's back on the pod.
It seemed busy.
Why would the merch guy even know that it's a sting?
Like, yeah, that's a good point.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't.
Would you let
tell
all
the
staff
merch
members know? Yeah.
Perhaps the merch guy's the butcher.
Oh. I mean, we were only introduced to 3 characters: his daughter, the merch guy, him, and I suppose the Raven. That's all we knew of. Yeah. Oh, and the guy that's tied up in his basement.
Do you know what, David? That's so Raven.
I was waiting for that. I was seriously waiting for that.
Really? It was not my error. I thought I did well to pull that one out.
I knew of it as well, though.
It was my error. I never really watched it.
Here, I'm going to go off script one more time. I'm just going to say it, and then you guys can react. Hundreds of beavers.
Yes! I saw the trailer for this myself the other day.
This is so random, and yet I can see why people are enjoying it. And I'm afraid to watch it sober, but I think...
Jose, explain to the audience what is Hundreds of Beavers.
I think even if I explain...
It's not a sex thing.
It's going to sound crazy. It's a guy who goes into this other dimension looking like thing, and then there's a bunch of people in beaver suits, like mascot beaver suits, and that's all I can say.
I don't think you're right there, Jose. I have got the official synopsis from Wikipedia here, so as official as the person who wrote it and stuck it on there. Jin Kayak is thrust into a bizarre winter realm, relying solely on his limited intellect to navigate the surreal environment. Amidst unforgiving weather and eerie beings portrayed by actors in elaborate mascot attire, Kayak devises intricate traps to earn the affection of a playful paramour.
It's a silent slapstick comedy film, isn't it?
It has been compared to like a modern day Chaplin.
Yeah. Neil, I basically got the first half correct.
I know. I hadn't read that before I pitched that.
Yes, all right. And the thing is, it's way more interesting than what any of these descriptions say. It's visually just great. So definitely going to be...
I've heard there's one line of dialogue in the film. And when that happens, it's just amazing.
Probably the last line of dialogue in the film.
Yeah.
That's all, folks.
People have said it's a vast... I'm looking at like for the thing, like Variety reviewed it, and they said it was like a vast homage to comedy traditions like Roadrunner versus Coyote. It's been compared to Cannibal the Musical, which was a frontier, Cannibal musical by the South Park guys. And that was actually there. I've actually got it on DVD, but it's a Troma release. And it was actually their student graduation film. And it was that good. It actually got bought and released.
Wow.
Also, there's a song in it called Would You Like to Build a Snowman? Fucking years before it turned up somewhere else.
Wow. That's amazing.
Would you like to build a snowman? And there's lots, and then someone gets shot in the head when he starts singing it.
Are you being serious?
Yeah. It's a really funny film.
Wow.
They run into a bunch of Native Americans at one point, and they start having an argument about music because it says, "I think your singing's off." It's honestly, it's pure South Park humor, but they just decided to do. Even you would love it, David. Do you know Oklahoma has the
Yeah.
big opening scene?
Yeah.
So they basically do that on a really limited budget in Cannibal the Musical, and the whole townsfolk they go, but we're going to go out in the winter, and everyone's like, but you'll die of cold and like everything like that. And they went, no, we won't. Not with like, not with that attitude, we won't. And like they're all like really happy, like marching off to like just insane death. And the whole town's chorus just literally sing, "What a bunch of stupid mother." Honestly, it's when South Park guys did South Park the movie and it was a musical. If you'd seen this, you would have known that was coming because they love a musical, man.
Yeah, they do.
So
actually.
yeah, Hundreds of Beavers. When is it out? Where can we see it? I have no idea.
Thank you, because I don't have any idea either. I was hoping
This trailer's
Some of it.
3 months old though, so hopefully it's soon.
It says it had a premiere at Fantastic Fest in 2022. So it's been out for 2 years in various guises. Also, it had a budget of 150 grand.
That's
Good
probably
job,
got
guys.
into like the beaver costumes, and that was about it.
Yeah, hundreds of them. Hundreds of them.
The post, I think the post production is probably pretty solid. Honestly, they really did a good job of that.
Right, well, guys, once again, we've gone massively over on trailers. So that brings us on to what we've been watching.
What have you been watching, Neil?
Well, from Happy Valley creator Sally Wainwright comes a show I've really enjoyed on Disney Plus, starring Derry Girls' Louisa Harland, who also, humble brag, I saw on stage in December in the brilliant, as will she, play Ulster American alongside Andy Serkis and Woody Harrelson. Harland plays Nell Jackson, a young woman framed for murder and forced to go on the run and make a living by plundering to provide for her two young sisters. But also, bizarrely, when she's in danger, a tiny spirit or sprite called Billy Blind, played by Nate from Ted Lasso, jumps, into her, giving her super strength and allowing her to kick all kinds of ass. But only if she's in mortal danger, and not if she's like got drunk and gets in a fight somewhere. He won't help her out. So I love that he kind of decides if it's when she gets to have powers or not, which is quite funny. This is a show I think Apple's Dick Turpin wished it could be. Like, you know, I enjoyed Dick Turpin. It's fine. Like
It's fine.
It's fine. It's a middle of the road fine. But as expected, this show is so much more well written, and it's a proper guns blazing, female led historical fantasy adventure show. This is the kind of thing I can imagine, like, you're sitting around with your family when you're a kid watching on, like, Saturday night on BBC One. It's like that Merlin type of show. It's got a bit darker. It is a bit darker in places. And it does have some magical elements, but they're not to the show's detriment. Harland, again, she's just superb as now, who's just trying to take care of her sisters and clear her name at the same time. Although I admit, her English accent took some getting used to for me, because I'm so used to seeing her as Orla in Derry Girls with a Northern Irish accent. When I saw her on stage, she was doing a regular accent. And then here, she's like, all right, yeah. She literally sounds like a female Danny Dyer almost at some point, you know, full on Essex like gangster girl. And I was like, oh, I'm not sure about the accent.
Jose even know who Danny Dyer is?
No, but it's just a funny
Don't
name.
worry about it. You don't need to know. Your life is better. Never looking him up on the IMDb.
Well, here's the question then: where is she from originally?
Northern Ireland.
Oh, so she is Irish.
Yeah. And that's what
Okay.
when she was in Derry Girls and when I saw her on stage, she was just doing her regular accent.
Okay,
And then she's playing like full on like Essex-ish. And that's a very specific accent in the UK as well.
So different question then. Would it be
What am I? Your mother?
Bothered.
Bothered? Am
is it a sorry, I'm just laughing at the accent.
Jose's got the gigs.
Is it a spoiler to explain what the fantasy aspect is?
I can do a little bit. I've got a little bit here.
Because in the trailer, you can kind of see a little fairy, and from what it looks like, when she's in danger, the fairy goes in her mouth and takes over her body. Is that
it doesn't
fair?
take over? It kind of gives her extra power, and like.
Oh, okay.
So he doesn't really take her over. He just kind of like gives her a helping hand when she's in mortal danger. On the on the magical kind of side, Adrian Lester is one of the villains. He's on great form as the Earl of Poynton, and you got young actors Jake Dunn and Alice Kremblberg as Thomas Blanchford and his sister Sophia Wilmot. Special mention must go actually to Alice Kremblberg, because she is a native New Yorker and has a perfect British accent. You would not know she wasn't another English actress in the show. She's got like the posh, like rich English accent in it. I was like, so I was looking. I've never heard of her before. So doing my research, I was like, she's American. She's from New York. She's literally from New York, and she's nailed it. So golf clap for Alice Kremblberg's good accent.
She's from New York.
New York.
Neil,
Anyway,
you need to practice a little more.
I just need to never do that again, really.
New York.
New York. Now, look, I like the show. It's a melange of different genres, and although generally a family-friendly show, there is still a hard edge in some of the more supernatural scenes. In the best way, like I say, it feels like a family show that has a little bit of everything with really strong performances in it. A special shout-out to Nell's younger sisters, Bo Bragason, and Florence Keane, who play her younger sisters, Roxy and George, who are really good as well. Yeah, the show's just got a little bit of everything in it. It's like it's got the swashbuckling, it's got comedy, it's got supernatural, it's got horror, it's got romance. You know, it is a proper all-round good action adventure show, and it's really well written. I mean, Happy Valley, which was the previous show by the writer, is probably lauded as one of the best British crime shows, disturbing, dark British crime shows of like the last decade. And this is what the writer's done straight afterwards. So clearly she'll need to have a bit more fun and kick back after like doing really dark stuff for the last couple of years. So yeah, all I'm saying now is after seeing this, give Louisa Harland a lead in a major movie because she deserves it. And they're already working on Series 2 and all episodes dropped at once and they're out now on Disney+. Oh, and also a lot of the stately homes, David, were filmed in Kent. Just down the road from us.
Were they? Whereabouts?
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't look it up now. Look it up later on your own time, not these people's time.
Okay,
And listener David Palmer said he got in contact with us and said the only one I'm sitting on your list is Renegade Nell, and I must say 3 episodes in and I'm in. Started it not knowing anything about it, but it's a fun romp and I'm intrigued to see where the series goes. Was a fan of Gallivant 2, so that makes sense.
Is that the cartoon series made by the creators of Futurama?
No, that's Disenchanted.
Ah, man.
But anyway, so Renegade Now, it's on Disney+, 8 episodes, and it's fun. It's a nice, easy watch. If you're only going to watch one Highwayman show with a highwaywoman in it, called Now, then probably watch this than Dick Turpin, which also has a highwaywoman in it, called Now. Next up, a film that, like everything in Hollywood, you wait ages for one show on a subject, and then 2 come along at the exact same time, which, of course, we'll be talking about a little bit later as well. A film that is unlike anything I've seen in many, many years, that I saw recently, and a film that was very divisive from its trailer, and that is Alec Garland's Civil War. Now, this trailer and just the film and the idea of the film in general stoked tension all over the place when its action-packed trailer dropped a few months ago. And I remember the initial reactions were mainly, yep, this could be a documentary in a few years in the States. Yeah. And also, how and why would Texas, California, and Florida ever join up in an alliance? It makes no sense.
They are Texas and California is the one where you're like, what? It's like, well, if you think from a political perspective, Republican and Democrat, Republican, Democrat, they're the 2 fucking furthest away from each other. Like it's not like in the UK politics where it's right and left wing, but we're much more centralized. In American politics, it's quite far right and far left in a way.
But none of this matters.
Not really. And I think
in the context of the film,
it doesn't matter at all.
No.
From the interviews I've seen, really it's 2. But even the one that I saw, even with the director, he purposely made it to where it doesn't matter how we got here. We're just here.
Yeah. Now, I caught this recently on opening night, and there was a lot more people in the cinema than there was for Garland's last film I saw there, which was Men. Have you seen Men, David?
No, I've not seen it yet. No, it's the bloke plays like 50 different characters, doesn't he?
Yeah, everyone in the town suddenly has the same guy's face, and it's like really weird and disturbing.
What? That's a real film?
Yeah, it's called Men, and it's the guy who did Civil War's previous film before this. There was about 4 of us in the cinema when that came out.
Wow.
I think Civil War drew people in with that really action-packed trailer. So as Guns N' Roses said on the first track of their 1991 album, which was one of the first albums I ever got, Use Your Illusion 2, because it had songs with swearing in it, what's so civil about war anyway? Well, nothing as it turns out. It's a stark and brutal and surprisingly apolitical film about a new American Civil War as California, Texas, and the Florida Alliance join forces calling themselves the Western Alliance. And it's basically them advancing on Washington.
Sorry, they're called the Western Alliance?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make more sense to be the Southern Alliance?
I didn't write it, David.
It would make more sense, right, Jose. I'm not. Listen, I'm no geography expert, but Jose's from Florida, and I'm pretty sure that is not the west of America.
So here's the thing. Again, I think it leads back to the director choosing.
It doesn't matter. That's what he's saying.
He's not explaining.
It's the west.
David, you're never going to get through the film if this is what you bump up on against. Okay.
Not bad.
I mean, for the record, David is completely accurately right.
Yeah, but everyone was. Everyone was just like, these places would not join up in any way. And geography, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, Florida's a little bit of a swing state, though. So
not really, unfortunately.
Anyway, President Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec, played by Nick Offerman. That is a Parks and Rec joke. He is not playing the president as Ron Swanson. Ron Swanson has not become president in this film. Although if he is, he probably would have done a better job than the guy who's playing in it. Now, I think this film has kind of been smartly and cleverly, which is the same word, mismarketed as a big action film. Well, yes, there is loads of action in the film. At its core, this is a film, and you don't really get this vibe from the trailer at all, about 4 members of the press in a road movie working their way from relative safety in New York through different war zones and dangerous areas, documenting the horrors they see on the way as they try to get to Washington to get an interview with the president before the forces get there and, you know, whatever happens, happens.
So the president dies at the end of that.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
You basically just did.
You imply, David. You imply. When you imply, you make a imp out of you and me. That didn't make any sense. It's long. Now, our main cast is led by Kirsten Dunst's battle-hardened war reporter, Lee Smith. And she's travelling with Joel, not that Joel from The Last of Us, different Joel. But this one is also an actor of Latino descent, because it is Wagner Moura from Narcos, who looks about 30 years younger than he did in Narcos, which was about 10 years old anyway now. And he plays a journalist and a colleague from Florida. And they're joined on their dangerous trip by Stephen McKinley Henderson's old and in no shape to be on the road veteran journalist Sammy, who works for the New York Times. And rounding off our foursome, that's a bad word, rounding off our troupe is Kaylee Spain's Jessie, an aspiring young photographer who talks her way into getting in the car and the trip. Now look, all 4 of the main cast are amazing. Dunst, as we know, is an amazing actress when she's given a lead role. She just has that been there, done that stare. She knows how to read a potentially dangerous situation really well and how to, like, calm things down, or, you know, she's just, when they start encountering all these dangerous situations, she's the person who knows exactly what to do in that situation. Wagner Moura's Joe, he's a bit more of an adrenaline junkie and kind of living for the job, you know. You can kind of almost see him, like, imagine if just that bit from Apocalypse Now, he'd be the guy hanging out in a helicopter, like, with a bottle of whiskey going, yeah, fuck yeah. It's like the napalm is dropping. He's kind of a bit like that in this. He even puts him in unnecessary danger sometimes. Like I said, McKinley Henderson Sammy shouldn't even be there because he's old, he's overweight, and he absolutely will be a burden to them if things go south, metaphorically, not literally. And then, of course, we got one of the young actresses making her name at the minute, Kaylee Spain's Jessie, who's having a hell of a time because she's just played Priscilla in Sofia Coppola's film, and she's got the upcoming lead in Alien Romulus that we talked about in the last pod. And yeah, you can see why all the fuss is about her here, because she's just superb, going from, like, wide-eyed youngster travelling with one of her photography heroes in Dunst's Lee. And like all our characters, she is put through the ringer in this film.
Wow.
Addressing the how, the why of Florida, Texas, and California have teamed up, well, the film doesn't. And also, it doesn't pick a side when it comes to the politics. So you never really know if the people our core 4 meet on the way are good guys and bad guys. You just, the directing does a really good job of kind of putting you in the same headspace as the characters.
What's the trip again? From New York to Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not that long of a journey.
It is if there's a war going on and militias and roadblocks everywhere.
What, New York to, like, Washington State would be a bit of a journey.
Well, that's across the country, but
yeah.
As our correspondent to America, it generally is a pretty long drive, and in general, it could be a 2-day drive if you took your time.
It's a lot longer in the film.
Yeah, but it means that you are driving through the highway at a good speed with no stops. It's a pretty long trip, so to be able to make it into a movie, I think it's a realistic view of a long way.
What I like is, like I say, the politics of it never come into it. You never are told what side someone's on. You're never told other go. It's kind of, I suppose you can take the implication that there's a bit on the newsreel right at the very start of the film where they mention that the president has disbanded the FBI and he's now in his 3rd term. So I guess you're like, okay, perhaps he probably is the bad guy. But again, you don't see anything. There's nothing more than that. That's just the basic setup, and that the forces are advancing on there, and it's a race against time for the reporters to get there and get the story before shit happens. And yeah, on the way, and so what I like is it's a road film. It's not really an action film. It's a road movie about photographers, and I love that even more. I was down for Civil War already, if it's just going to be like a straight-ahead action film. But then it's like, oh no, it's a road movie about photographers and journalists, and it's even better because of that, man. And yes, they do meet. These are people just mainly trying to survive and do their jobs. And yes, there are some absolute wrong uns encountered along the way. Most notably, as we see in the trailer, Mr. Dunst himself, Jesse Plemons, playing a not very
Yes.
nice militiaman.
I have to say, his line in that trailer probably sums up
Oh,
the whole movie really well. Are you an American? What kind of American are you?
I wouldn't be surprised to see your politicians using that in the election later this year.
Oh man, that's a whole scary
I would not be
scenario.
surprised if like politicians have already retweeted that GIF. You know,
I don't think they're smart enough. If anything, there's only one person I think that would use that quote, and he would probably use it in the wrong way. If we
Is
know what
this
we're talking
man
about.
like a bit of orange suntan?
Yes, unnaturally
Yeah. Okay.
a color that he shouldn't be.
I would say as well, right? The violence in this film that happens and is documented by our characters is truly shocking, and it happens
Wow.
often, and it's treated just so matter of factly that. And again, it comes back to this thing that we're never sure who the good guys or the bad guys are in any situation, often until it's too late. Our characters never pass judgment on the atrocities they see. They're just
Wow.
there to get the story and get the shots. Now, as a former videographer, Jose, me and David are both former videographers, and you're a current photographer.
Current photographer, yeah.
We might have a few questions about camera care in this film. So,
Oh
not
man.
once, and I knew this is, so I made these notes specifically for you, Jose. Never once do we see them charge their batteries. Never once do we see them back up their memory cards, but one scene in a hotel at the start of the film, and in New York, and even then the Wi-Fi is patchy. Joel and Sammy, who were the journalists, I don't see them write anything down or record anything on any kind of recording device.
Ooh, that is a big no-no.
Rookie error by Kaylee Spanish. Jesse, why would you take a film camera with you?
Oh wait, hold on. She's the young character.
Yeah, but she's got a film camera and a regular camera. But
she's
like
a hipster. So much a hipster. That's the thing.
Well,
right
also,
now.
at one point as well, Joel says they work for Reuters, but we never see them over the timeline of the film have anything to do anything with the photos they're taking. And also, Jessie, who's just joined them, I'm like, well, I'm assuming she doesn't work for Reuters. So who is paying for her to be there? What is she doing with her photos? And the trip takes so long for them to get there. I'm like, it's placed over a couple of months, maybe? Or a month or two?
Couple of months? Wow.
I might be wrong on that. It might be just maybe 5 to 6 weeks at the most. But I'm just watching it going, where are your pictures going to? Like, give us that frame of reference to see. But again, the film doesn't want to tell you that. It doesn't want to tell you that story.
I have to admit that time frame really changes my perspective on what this movie could be. Not knowing.
I think the trailer really misrepresents what it is in a good way.
Yeah.
Other than that, the main complaint is that by not taking a political side in the film, Garland is taking the easy way out. But as he said, that's not what the film's about. It's about showing the pointlessness of war and how simple it is for people to be murdered in cold blood. And if it happens that much and that often, it just becomes accepted as normal, which is sadly what we see in our news every day now. All Garland does is say, what if this was happening to you? Which quite rightly makes for uncomfortable viewing. And I would say, I thought this was superb in all aspects. You know, is it Oscar caliber? Maybe. It could be up there potentially. I think the directing and the editing are all razor sharp and masterfully done. And it is one of the needle drops of the year, which I won't spoil here if you don't want it spoiled. But if you do want to know what the needle drop is, go on the film's official Spotify playlist, and it's the third track. For me, that is a standout scene of the film. And it caught me by surprise because I never thought in a gunfight this would be the song you would pick. And then it started, and I was just like, this is a really cool song. And then the lyrics sync up perfectly to the act. And I was like, oh, yes.
Wow.
Great song.
I think David's doing the exact same thing right now.
Looking up the song?
No, I'm not looking up the song. No.
David's looking up the film because I lost him a little while back there. And we got a comment on Civil War as well from an old friend of the pod who's commented before in the past, Rachel Miller. And she said, Civil War is an interesting one. A series of vignettes without too much of a plot and not much payoff. It looks good, it's well acted, filmed, great sound too. But so many films have had this journey again, all odds type theme. Others have been apocalypse, zombies, aliens, monsters, etc. And I feel all mostly with higher stakes, done better and with more character and story development. We don't know anything about the Civil War. Maybe we don't need to in this instance, but I felt like I needed something more to hang on to. And that's quite a general sentiment a lot of people have had about the film. I can see how you view it that way. I personally disagree because I think the film, it's so streamlined to be, this is a story, this is all we care about, fuck everything else. It's war is pointless, war is shit. What surprises you and shocks you in this could easily happen any day in the future. So it's a film for our times. So go and see it. Go and see it, guys. Civil War, took a lot out of me. Just a review. So, David, we're going to go over to you, and you're going to tell us about Well, tell me, what are you going to tell us about?
I can.
Is it going to be the film about the American nun going to Italy and getting involved with a devil-worshipping cult who try and impregnate her with the spawn of Satan?
Which one, Neil? Which one are we talking about here?
Well, you tell me, David, because you've seen both this week.
Yeah.
The Immaculate Conception of David or the First Omen?
I think because we've both seen Immaculate, we'll save Immaculate for a little bit later. But I'm going to talk about the First Omen for now. So they're basically both the same film. So as you mentioned, the First Omen is a young American woman who is sent to Rome to begin her life in service of the church.
Played by Sydney Sweeney.
While she's there, no, I'm talking about the First Omen here. So
not played by Nell Tiger Free then.
Nell Tiger Free, who, as you've already mentioned previously in the podcast, is in Severance.
Nope.
Nell Tiger Free's in Severance. Servant. Yes.
The other show
Severance.
beginning with S on Apple.
Oh my god, they're so confusing. In Servant, yeah.
Where she plays a creepy nanny.
Exactly, yeah. And she is absolutely fantastic in this film. And while she's in Rome, she sort of uncovers a conspiracy amongst the church to bring forth the Antichrist into the world.
There's some bad priests, is what you're saying.
There's some bad priests and there's some good priests. You know, there's a civil war, you might say, amongst priesthood.
Uh-huh.
And but this film is honestly, it's one of the best horror films I've seen this year so far. And and we're gonna review Immaculate in a bit, but it completely shits on Immaculate as the two. If you're comparing the two, which they are basically very similar in films, the First Omen is by far the more superior horror film.
Well, I was going to say, David, I mean, this was a film on paper no one wanted, right? It was a prequel to a well-loved 70s classic horror film.
I mean, well, there's only the Omen as like a franchise anyway. There's only like 5 films, isn't there? So there's the Omen, Omen 2, The Final Conflict, and then there was a 4th one and a remake of the original Omen.
Ignore the remake, ignore the 4th one, because I forget who's in the 4th one. Basically, it was almost like its own trilogy, the original 3, because they're all around the same time. And also, 3 does have Sam Neill in it playing the young version of the devil.
Yeah, so he's playing Damien, yeah.
Yeah, Damien Fawn.
And the last we know, if we're going off the 3rd trilogy, is that, you know, Jesus comes back, doesn't he, as the second coming, and basically kills.
That is honestly, I mean, yeah, it's spoilers for the end of Omen 3, but the film has been out for about 30 years.
The 80s, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
When did that come out?
Maybe close to 4. That scene, David, is still stuck in my brain because Sam Neill's guy's like, "I've won, yeah." And then he's like, he walks into a church because he thinks he can do that now. And then like falls to his knees, and this bright light comes down, and like he just starts like basically dying. And then his last line is literally something like, "You have achieved nothing, Nazarene." As he dies, I was like, "Holy fuck!" It was awesome, man. So big fan of that.
It is a direct prequel to those original Omens
from 1976, I think.
I don't think it's like that big of a spoiler to say that we're basically seeing the birth of Damien, which is going to go on to become Damien. And
the original Omen, because I just rewatched it myself the other day because it's on Disney Plus. Go watch the Omen on Disney Plus.
Kind of a weird place for the Omen to be held.
I know. I was like, wow. That's weird.
The original Omen starts with the main guy in a hospital, and his son, his newborn son, has died like immediately. They haven't told his wife yet, and like for some reason there's priests there, and they're in Italy. And he's like, "Oh, take this kid instead. Don't tell your wife. Nothing bad will happen there."
Yeah, exactly. So he's the so I think is it Richard Fawn? I think is the political correspondent or something to American. He's American consulate to Rome, yeah. And then he's the American consulate to the UK later on in the film because they're in London.
Yeah. So this film is, who is Damien's mother and where did she come from?
Basically, it does have some it has quite an obvious twist depending on how you're looking at it. I mean, when I was watching it, I didn't see it 100%, but then I was like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. There's one specific sort of horror sequence in this film that I really want to talk about in a spoiler moment, and I think I will talk about it maybe later on because it's probably the best horror sequence I've seen in the last decade. Wow. Just one moment. It happens about halfway through the film, and I was all of the words. I was like,
all the things, David.
Grossed out. I was scared. I was unnerved. I was horrified. I was
Wow.
disturbed. I was just fucking petrified. all at once, just all at once, and it and how it's done, because there's multiple different moments of this just one scene and this one moment, and it draws on loads of different sort of horror techniques, and then the reveal, the moment where you see what's happening, when you see what she sees, and you're like, fuck that, and then it ends, and you're like, oh my god, that was fucking good. That was scary.
I've read some reviews that haven't obviously spoiled it, and they're just like, this is the moment where, like, obviously Nell Tiger 3 was like, yep, that's my scene right there.
Yeah, it's there's some the middle of the film. It is it's brilliant. Honestly, it's one of the best horror sequences I've seen in a long time, and I think this film will go down as probably one of the best horror films of the year for me. It genuinely was really good. It does the original justice and then some.
As of right now, would you say it's top 10 of the year?
It's number 1 of the year as of now, from a horror perspective.
Ooh.
From a horror
I
perspective.
don't think there's anything from a horror perspective.
What
Number
about
1.
outside of horror, just all around?
Does it beat Dune 2?
Nah, because there's other Dune. It'd be up there with Dune for me, because I do quite like my horror films.
Okay.
So it would be up there. It might make my top 10 of the year for sure, because I genuinely did really enjoy this film. I think it's fantastic.
And so what you're saying, David, is you're going to be paying a lot of attention to first-time writer and director Arkasha Stevenson. This is her debut film.
Nice.
Yes, 100%. 100%. See,
Hopefully
check out
she
what
doesn't
she's
get
doing.
put on a Disney movie and then gets burnt out because Disney executives force her to do the movie her way.
Reading up, she is based in LA, but she graduated from the American Film Institute, and then she was a journalist. And before she, like I said, this is obviously her first film, but she did some episodes of the sci-fi horror channel show Channel Zero. She did the first episode of the Netflix horror show that I never got around to watching, Brand New Cherry Flavor, which was supposed to be good and a weird one. She did an episode of Legion as well. Noah Hall with Dan Stevens. So, it sounds like it was about time they gave her a goddamn film, and look what she's done. I really can't wait to see this, man. Yeah, I had so much to see recently that I've not had a chance to go and see it.
I put out a poll on Twitter to see if, like, for anyone that's in Immaculate and The First Omen, just to see, which one people would have preferred more. It is 100% The First Omen's better than Immaculate.
Is that my one vote?
That is not just your one vote. No, there's been about 6 votes, which
Nice.
isn't much, I suppose. 100% for The First Omen. Sorry, and I think there is a massive reason for that, which we'll talk about in Immaculate, because I don't think Immaculate was a bad film. I just think it made one massive mistake, an absolute shocker of a mistake that we'll get into when we talk about that.
So, Jose, usually I'm missed to go to the preview and see a film a month or so before it comes out in the cinema, and yet you have now seen a film made by a British filmmaker that's not even scheduled for cinemas over here yet. We don't know when it's going to come out in the cinema, and you've seen it already before it's even out on major release in the States. How? Why?
How did you do it? How did you do it, Nan?
Who did you kill?
I know the right people.
Where are the bodies?
Honestly, it was a friend of mine who does the same as you, Neil. He has sneak previews, and he just happened to have a couple extra tickets, and me and some friends joined him, and I got to see this. And
the film is?
And the film is The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, starring Henry Cavill, Alan Ritchson, and the beautiful Isa Gonzalez, along with a bunch of other guys. Carrie Ewes, I never know how to say his last name. And honestly, I have to make a note. Isa Gonzalez, she's the only female, and she carries the film for the female aspect. She does a great job. I mention it also because she's also in Three Body Problem, which we will talk eventually about.
Yep. She was in Ambulance, Baby Driver.
And actually, Henry Golding did a good job. His part's a little smaller, but if you watch the movie The Gentleman, I believe with Matthew McConaughey. Yeah, he's very much different in this film. And then I actually really like Twill Schweiger. He was a pretty good...
That sounds like a medical condition.
Yeah, he was a really good villain, and I just love the fact that he was playing a Nazi after in Glorious Bastards, where he played a Nazi killer.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. I didn't
know. So there's also Bob Sulusumukun, who, if you're a fan of, I know it's horrible. He's also in that Star Trek show. Now I just forget the one where we all enjoy.
Strange New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds. I've been seeing him pop up more, especially in Dune. He was in that as well. And then, yeah, a few other character actors. Overall, the movie's really good. It has a pretty straightforward plot line. I don't want to. I mean, I think it kind of goes to show in the trailer what they're doing. They're trying to stop a submarine base. And I think for the most part, it does everything really well. Comparing it again to Inglourious Bastards is a lot simpler of a film. Not as convoluted. And the dialogue, even though it's a little simpler, it's actually pretty funny and straightforward. I would say there's maybe a couple moments or a couple scenes that they give a little too much credit to the good guys. But overall, it's just a fun movie to watch. And honestly, I think Alan Ritchson is on the rise. His character is just so funny. I really hope to see him more.
Did you know what? I was just checking. This still does not have a UK release date. And,
Really?
I mean, we know I'm an established not really a fan of Guy Ritchie. We've got the whole, I think,
Dude,
Matthew
I'm not
Vaughn.
a fan of Guy Ritchie either. I don't know what it is. Yeah, I honestly can't put my finger on it.
He's never
properly.
developed his style for me. He's done the same thing throughout his career, and when he has tried something else, it's been bad. Remember that film we did with Madonna? No one does.
What about Sherlock Holmes?
I think Sherlock Holmes gets by purely on the charisma of Downey Jr.
No, I'd agree with that. I think I think Robert Downey Jr. carries that.
I honestly thought those movies were really good and they had some good style. I feel like Robert Downey Jr. did add some charisma.
Yeah,
but it was just more of to what the world was built in.
Also at that stage, Junior, he was like on his big comeback trail, so he was like, you know, in exec producing. So I feel like he had quite, from what I've heard, I know a few people who are in the industry and a few people who have worked with Guy Ritchie, and they said he basically turns up for like 10 minutes, says, yeah, that's fine, and then buggers back off and does something else. And all the assistant directors or, you know,
I see.
Kind of likes to put his name on it. And the best example of that I can find recently is The Gentleman, which we're hopefully going to be talking about on an upcoming show with a friend of the pod, Charlie Gallagher, who's a crime writer extraordinaire. My dad watched The Gentleman recently because The Gentleman was a Guy Ritchie film a few years back with Matthew McConaughey that everyone said, oh no, this is really good. And it was quite a good film. Then he did something really bad. The one with Statham and Ruse de Guerre, Operation Fortune. Oh. And on paper, how do you do an action comedy with Carrie Hills again, Hugh Grant, Aubrey Plaza, and Jason Statham and have it be shit? But it was. It was shit. It was terrible. Josh Hartnett was in it as well, playing an actor.
Yes.
Remember that one?
I was really looking forward to that one.
Charlie Gallagher said he watched it recently and loved the show on Netflix. And then Ben watched it as well and said it was really good and enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And I binged the whole thing in about 3-4 days, all 8 episodes. But do you know why? And again, I think it's this executive producer / created by credit with Ritchie here, because what he does, he writes the first one, directs the first one, and then has story by credits. So I reckon he goes, it starts here, it ends there. Give me my bag of money, I'll do one of them, fuck off, see you later. I'm going to go shoot stuff on my I'm going to shoot stuff wearing stylish suits on my grounds and go like shooting pheasants and stuff. Because then, as the episodes go on, you're like, this is a lot better than anything Guy Ritchie's done in ages. Wow. Oh, wait, this episode wasn't written by him. Oh, wait, this episode wasn't directed by him. So that's what I wanted to know, Jose, is does this film feel like, is it good despite Guy Ritchie, or does it feel like he's just like going by the numbers on it? Or did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it, but now with all that context, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit of both.
Right.
Because it has some style, but not very much. Like, I hate to say it because it's a period piece. And so it's almost like if it wasn't set in World War II, it could be set in the Cold War. In a way, visually, it's almost plain, you know, like there's no real cool lighting. There's no real cool like moments that involve cinematography, but it's just done well.
Well, ironically, the film hasn't done well, apparently. Like I say, it's not even scheduled to be released in the UK in cinemas. Despite that cast and Ritchie's like pedigree, you think it would get released.
I'll be honest, in the States, it's actually gotten a pretty good push. I've seen a lot of commercials for it. And I guess for the record, at the time of recording it, it comes out today.
I was just looking, there was a Variety article and said the tracking for it's bombing quite badly. I'm guessing if you're Guy Ritchie and you can't get your own films released in England with that cast, then clearly enough. He's clearly burned enough bridges in the UK, I think, with people going, "No, fuck it."
The reported budget is 60 million, and
That's
I
big
can
for him.
see.
Oh, it'll make 60 million.
You would think, but
should-
if
it
it's,
should make
Eventually,
60 million.
not on its opening weekend.
but you know what? For the record, I like the movie. I think it's worth a watch.
This is the thing with Ritchie films. I'm like, is it good despite him? Is Rickson, Cavill, and Gonzalez the kind of core trio? Are they good enough to like make? Do you know what? I'll enjoy it despite the lack of style.
Honestly, I think they have a lot of charisma as the characters that they play.
Okay.
And honestly, there was a moment in one of the later scenes that what Alan Ritchson's doing, and then he stops for a moment to wave, and it just made me laugh out loud. And so,
there's so many things he could
Were
be
you
doing.
the only one in the cinema that was laughing
No,
out loud?
Did you wave back at him, Jose? Did you stand up and wave back at him?
And it was awkward for you because you just burst
Alan.
out laughing and no one else did.
Alan,
honestly, there were some
Alan.
good moments.
please tell me they got the joke.
Alan, yes,
Yes.
the little rodent on top of the
Gopher.
mountain.
Meerkat.
Is it?
Yeah.
Meerkat, that's the word.
That's
yes.
not a meerkat, is it? It's a gopher.
No, it's a meerkat.
Is it?
But
That's
anyways-
weird. Alan,
Alan,
like
yes.
that. That's not a meerkat. I'm fucking
That's a
Googling
meerkat.
that shit. No.
But yes, for the record, the theater was pretty full, nothing packed, but it was pretty full. And according to within the people that were in there, we were all laughing. Sometimes at different parts, but we were all laughing. So I think it's a good enough.
Was it
movie
like
that
someone gets horribly murdered?
It was a
and you start
prairie
laughing
dog.
Your head off?
It was a prairie dog.
I cannot confirm nor deny your question, Neil.
Yeah, so the reason, David, I didn't actually get around to seeing the First Omen, which I really wanted to when all the good reviews started coming out, was in the same week I had 3 films, only 2 days I could see them. So the first film was Civil War, booked on the Friday, and then my choice had to be between the First Omen or the film I did go and see, which was Monkey Man.
Yeah.
Walking up a big... No, it wasn't the Scar Reggae song, Monkey Man, which is now stuck in your head if you go and Google it afterwards. A Real Big Fish did a really good cover of it. Anyway, from actor, writer, producer, and now director Dev Patel comes Monkey Man, an action revenge thriller that he initially, and I didn't know this, tried to get Neil Blomkamp to direct.
Wow.
Blomkamp was like, do you know what? Do it yourself, mate. I think he said it in a nicer way than that. It was like, oh, do it yourself. It was like, no, this is your story, man. You do it.
I think Hollywood
And,
rejected him a lot, didn't it, for making this film? And I think that was the whole basic thing. It's like, fuck it, I want to just do it myself.
No
'cause I
one
can't get
wanted to give Dev Patel his shot of being an action star, so he just did it himself.
I mean, I gotta admit, of
Kudos
people you
to
would
him.
think would be an action star, Dev Patel, great actor, great choices in characters. Never would have pegged him for an action
I mean,
star.
no, dude, 100%. I remember Dev Patel when he was in Skins, just trying to get laid every episode, and and now to see him in that, it honestly is awesome. To see.
I mean, he's picking really good films, isn't he, as well, man? Like
Yeah.
The
I
Green
feel
Knight
like-
the other year was amazing.
I was gonna say the Green Knight. I think probably allowed him to think, okay, maybe I can be something more.
Yeah.
You know,
So Patel geared up to shoot in India in early 2020, and then we all know what happened then. The film was postponed and nearly cancelled until Patel managed to relocate to a small island. It's called the small island of Batam in Indonesia. So he basically took over an island to make the film. And in the film's first action scene on the first day of filming, he broke his hand. You know, that's the worst of it, though. And once filming was complete, the film was sold to Netflix for $30 million and billed as John Wick in Mumbai. However, that's usually where the story ends. No, there was more shit he had to jump through to get this film out in cinemas. Because apparently Netflix thought the film was too gritty for an Indian audience and wondered if the politics of the film might be an issue. And they quietly shopped it around, trying to get rid of it, and almost cancelled the release. So it did a few festival appearances around the world. And luckily, at one of those festival appearances, Jordan Peele saw the film in Toronto. And he said, you know what, this deserves a cinema release. And he came on board with his production company, Monkey Paw. Hey, Monkey Man, Monkey Paw. It's right there, right? And he then convinced Universal to buy it from Netflix, who then released it. So, is it Dev Wick? Well, do you know what? Not really. In some ways, it's a very subtle film where simply Dev Patel's kid, he doesn't have a name, he's just called Kid, is out for revenge against the people and the corruption that just seems endemic in his life in India. It deals with the class system. It even deals with transgender issues, which I didn't see coming in the film at all. And however, does it deliver on the action front? Well, yes. In a word, Patel is excellent, and he just mixes Indian folk tales into the film's mythology. There's a whole story about the Monkey Man and the mask of Hanuman. He starts off as a low-level boxer, and he gets told what fights he's going to lose and what round to go down in that. Oh, and you'll love this, Jose. The promoter is your favourite South African, Sholto Copley, as the unscrupulous fight promoter.
Love it. I love him. He's a great actor.
He's superb in it. I wish we'd got more of him.
So does he play South African by any chance?
Yeah, of course he does.
I mean, you never know.
It'd be funny seeing him do an American accent. I'm sure he has at some point, but why bother? Like, just
he has.
He's known as a great South African actor. Just let him do what he does, man. But there's even a joke about John Wick near the start of the film where, like, he's tooling up and the guy opens up all of his guns and that. He's like, "Oh, do you want this? This is one was in John Wick." And I was like, "Nice, like it." That's how you do that joke and do it well.
Self-aware. I like
self-aware. And Patel clearly knows what his audience wants, and he just concocts this really sublime blend of action, social issues, and does it with great visual flair. Now, is it perfect? Well, no. The pacing for me was like the single biggest problem with me. The film starts off with all these big, cool action scenes. He slowly starts finding his way into going after the people that he blames for his past, and we'll leave it at that. I mean, it's a revenge film, so, something shit happened and he's going after them.
Yeah. Did they kill a dog, Neil? That's all I need to know.
No, they didn't.
Okay, good.
Oh, but there is a dog in it. Oh, now I'm wondering, did they? No, they didn't kill the dog. But
mate, if you'd remember if they killed the fucking dog.
I almost fell asleep in it because I was very tired. It was at the end of a long. Actually, no, it was on a Monday. It was the start of a very long week.
This is where you saw the fox.
That was the night I saw the fox outside the cinema. I was like, this film is communing with me. I saw Monkey Man, and now I see a fox. Yeah, it just wanted an Nando's, to be fair. It wanted an Nando's. So we start with action, and like you say, you see Patel rise through the ranks and get closer to the people he's after. And about an hour in, after a superb action scene and one of the best tuk-tuk rampages you'll ever see in film, forget about the one in Dial of Destiny, this is how you do a tuk-tuk action scene.
Wow.
It just slows right down for about half an hour and gets into all like the spiritual and the deeper stuff and like the dream sequences. I was like, okay, this is cool, but they did it in like 10 minutes in Wakanda Forever. I don't need half an hour of it. And I was kind of flagging a bit then, but then you knew he was like going to go back and have another crack at like the bad guys and like build up again. I would say that if anything, he tries to over direct at one point, and I heard this on another review, I think, and I forget what the person said, so I'm plagiarizing, but it was along the lines of, I think when you get to direct your first film and you don't know if you'll ever get a direct again, you want to just chuck every trick at the wall to show people what you're capable of. And again, like, you think you would pick one fight style. Would you be close in and handheld, or would you be like wide to show the action, or would you have like drones, or would you like? He does fucking everything. He like literally doesn't pick a style. It's just pure. Let's do right. Let's do this scene on drones. Right. Let's do this scene handheld. Let's do this scene all over. And there's so many whip pans. Like at one point, I was like literally getting dizzy just watching it. I was like, okay, just as we say, calm your tits, Dev. Calm your tits. Just slow the camera down a bit, man. Show the action. You've clearly done the training. You can clearly kick ass. So show us, let us see you doing it rather than just whipping the camera around.
The choreography of a fight is sometimes the best part of the fight, isn't it? Not necessarily how you're presenting it on the camera.
I mean, there's a great chase through the streets, like people jumping up and down fire escapes and from buildings to buildings. And the camera, is sort of this drone shot, literally weaves in and out of the buildings. So there's a shot where like someone goes inside the building and comes out again. I was like, and there's no need to do that, really. It doesn't add anything to it, but it does get you that, that's a cool shot moment. For me, I can't wait to see what he does next.
James Bond.
He could, honestly, he'd be a great Bond. He would be a great Bond.
James Bond.
It's just racist.
Throw it out there, man.
I see it, but I think Aaron Taylor Johnson would be better. Now that it's been put in my head, I really want to go for Aaron Taylor Johnson.
And well, I asked for comments as well, and Cage Fighting Pod, the premier Nicolas Cage fan podcast out there, said, Monkey Man is far too good a film for a first-time director. I refuse to believe Dev hasn't been doing it for decades. Absolutely loved it.
Nice. So I just thought it was interesting because I didn't know Sholto Copley was in Monkey Man, but it's kind of, he's also in a movie that
you
was
just
supposed
talked
to come
about
out
recently, wasn't it? What was it?
Boy Kills World.
Boy Kills World, that's it.
And he's also a villain in that.
Always a villain.
And
except District 9.
Yes. And I just thought it was really interesting. A guy looking for revenge, and Sholto Copley is there as the villain. There's one of them at least. So I thought that was really cool.
He probably loves it. He turns up, probably works for like a couple of weeks, tops, gets his scenes out of the way, gets on a poster, gets to come in, be angry, loud, South African and violent. And job done, man.
And fun fact is he was actually a television producer, before he even became an actor. So
what you're saying is there's still hope for me, Jose. There's still hope.
I think so. You just got to find your niche.
Well, it's not what I'm doing now, I'll tell you that much. Right, and moving on to the Immaculate Conception of David.
Oh, I like what you did there, Neil.
Yeah.
So, Immaculate, man. This one, it tells the story of an American nun who embarks on a journey to a remote convent in the Italian countryside.
I'm getting a bit of deja vu, David. Didn't you mention this film earlier?
Well, this one stars Sydney Sweeney.
Oh, okay. So
which is
a blonde, not a brunette. Okay.
Yeah, and she is pretty much like the star at the moment. She's she's pretty much turned into a pretty big sex symbol at the moment, Sydney Sweeney. So I kind of really liked the fact that she chose to do a nun as her next film, and she has got some horror roots as well from her earlier career. She did a bunch of horror films, but she chose to be a nun to completely almost strip away her sexuality because it's all covered up for the majority of the film, which is one of the issues I have actually in the film, is that they decided to show her in a sexual way in one scene, which was completely unnecessary.
Wow.
Yeah, and they used it in the trailer as well, which again completely unnecessarily. I feel like they knew what they were doing with that marketing.
And the thing is, Sydney Sweeney, she's a producer on this as well. She's been trying to get this film made since before she was cast in Euphoria. And to just drop in my 2 cents on her and her career, I think she's got a bit of Dave Bautista syndrome. When she's in a film playing like, the object of lust, like in Anyone But You, in the rom-com, or, in what she was doing in Euphoria.
Yeah, well, she's the sex
but she's clever. She knows she has to trade in her looks at this point in her career. And so she'll go and do the obvious film like that. But then she'll go and do something that she produces.
Passion
so she
projects.
Gets more money of it. And she, so last year she did a film that was almost a one-take one called Reality, about a whistleblower agent in the US government. And she was amazing. And that was the film where everyone went, oh no, but bar Euphoria, everyone was like, no, this girl can really act. And then she goes and does Madam Web. But then after Madam Web, no wonder she didn't give a shit about Madam Web, because she's like, I'll take the paycheck for that, because next up, in literally 2 months' time, I've got Immaculate coming out, and everyone is going to lose their shit again over it.
Yeah, no. So in Immaculate, she can 100% act. I don't think there's anyone that's going to be questioning the fact that she can perform in this film, and she carries the film pretty much the entire time. Her performance is amazing, and at the very end, I think you could agree, Neil, the sequence at the very end is, it's pretty much all performance led, and it is done, and her performance is immaculate in it. It's very good.
Yeah. In a way, I'm kind of actually pleasantly surprised to hear that.
Oh yeah, no, she's excellent in it.
That's really cool.
She genuinely really is. I think as a film, it's not as good as the First Omen, and it does have its flaws.
So, it's a bit shorter though, isn't it? It's about 40 minutes.
It's only an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, this film basically, it's a really short horror film, and the First Omen goes on for about 2 hours.
It makes me think of that Charlize Theron, because for a while she was just a sex symbol, and then she actually did that movie
Monster.
Monster.
To
be more established, and then she kind of was able to pick her own roles after that.
Yeah, and I could see Sydney Sweeney doing the same thing. She's already doing it. She's like doing the smaller films that, like as I said, she did a film with the director before that was like a low budget one on Amazon called The Voyeurs, Michael Mohan, who's directed this. So, and again, I think she was like producer with him on that. So she's managing a career really well at the minute. Like, do the big film, be the sex symbol.
Yeah, she's doing all the right moves. Yeah.
And then you go and do the indie film for the awards, and one for me, one for you. That's what she did.
She was also on the first season of White Lotus. If you're
yeah.
So American Girl goes to Italy. The difference with this one is it's not in Rome. It's in a very secluded countryside. So it's very isolated instead. So she's moving into a place isolated from anywhere. And she's also isolated from a language barrier perspective, which is sort of told very early on in the film, where a nun comes up to her, speaks to her in Italian. She ain't got a bloody clue what she's saying. So she's having to speak to people through a translator or somebody that does speak English there, which is very limited in the Covenant. She will strangely, out of nowhere, become pregnant. And there's a scene where, in the trailer, I think it's in as well, where nobody really believes her, and they're questioning her, saying, well, you must have had sex. Have you ever had sex? Have you kept with your vows? Are your vows, you've not broken your vows? And she's like, no. And then she's hailed as the Virgin Mary, isn't she, essentially? Where everyone sort of looks at her and redeems her and idolizes her almost as she's going around the Covenant. And the film's split into 3 chapters. It's split through trimesters. So first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. I tell you, it was a really bad idea for me to watch 2 films about birthing
babies.
people, Devil Baby, with
Oh.
when my wife's heavily pregnant at the moment.
That could be bad, yeah.
It's not the smartest move I've
Just
ever done.
check for the 666 behind the ear, David. Check for the tail.
You may want to avoid watching Sophie's Choice.
Yeah.
Jesus, Jose.
Sorry, we can cut that out if it's
Just
too
in
much.
general, I mean.
Yeah, dude.
I will say on this, David, I was doing a little bit of research because I watched this just the other day as well, and yeah, it was fine for me. It didn't grab me as much, but I feel that if I'd seen it in the cinema, it would have worked better. But watching it at home because it's out on digital now.
Yeah. So I have one massive issue with this film, and you'll probably agree with me.
Yeah.
It's the first 2 minutes. The first 2 minutes of the film,
Right.
where I mean, I don't think it's a massive spoiler because it's the first 2 minutes of the film.
Yeah.
Where you see the one woman, she's trying to leave the Covenant, and when she gets captured, and then she doesn't, and she gets buried alive by the people, and that is the biggest problem with the film because it completely takes away any. Because you know what the people are capable of. Yeah, you know what the people there running the Covenant, you know what the nuns are capable of.
It wasn't needed.
You
could start slowly and build it.
You've lost any of that suspense, correct, Neil? So you wouldn't start the Wicker Man with them burning somebody alive at the beginning of the film, and then have the priest come back in, and then have the cop.
Don't mention the burning.
Yeah, and then have the cop coming back into it. That's not how you'd start a horror film. You need to build up that suspense slowly, and that's what the First Omen does fantastically. Which this film, if you genuinely, you just remove the first 2 minutes or you replace it with something else entirely, and the film will become much better because then you'll start to think and you'll start to wonder and you'll build that suspense slowly from the actions that all the nuns and all of the priests are doing, and it will slowly start to build more and more of a horrific picture. But because you've already been told really early on what they are capable of, it just completely ruins it.
Yeah,
it's gone. You lose any scare factor.
I hadn't thought of that before you mentioned it, but that's probably why I didn't care as much because, we know that you're evil.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're told really early on. Just don't tell us that early on. Yeah, I think that was such a big mistake for me. It kind of did ruin the film a little bit because of that. But and I think such an easy fix as well.
Well, David, rounding off our American nuns in Italy and demonic talk today, I found an article by Bill Jabiri of Vulture, and they said, why should anyone be surprised that suddenly, in the wake of the Supreme Court's ruling overturning of Roe versus Wade, as state after state attempts to enact religious laws depriving women of bodily agency, America is suddenly getting horror movies about people forced into monstrous births by religious institutions worried about their growing irrelevance.
Wow.
That was deep.
That was a damn good comment. I just saw that. I was like, yeah. So Bill Jabiri of Vulture wrote that, and wow,
nice job,
nailed it. I mean, yeah, I actually thought it could have been longer. I think that this type of film needs the slow build up. It needs and it did the standard horror film thing you get a lot these days, where let's start with something horrific happening. No, you don't need to. Start slowly. You could have started with her backstory
the
and all that kind
opening
of
scene. Like it's quite like where she's screaming. Yeah. That's actually it's quite good as a separate its own thing. Yeah, but when you take it in the wider context of the film, it just ruined. Yeah, it does ruin it. But I agree with you 100%. It does need to be a little bit longer.
And as you say, her final scene in the film is just
that's amazing. Yeah, brilliant.
Well, compare the two, because I'm assuming, and I'm just guessing here, so don't just give me a simple yes or no or the name of actress. I'm assuming they're kind of similar endings, as it were.
Last scene's completely different.
Okay.
Completely different. Because I thought the Last Omen was going to end at like 5 different moments.
Oh, cool.
And it didn't end. It just kept going. So from a last scene perspective, Immaculate wins if you're going to pit them together.
Okay. I'm even more intrigued now.
Yeah.
I really need to see the First Omen, man. I might try and catch it next week if it's still out. That's all the time we have today. I'd like to thank my co-host as always, David.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you very much for having me. I mean, you've had me every other time. I mean, you have me every night, but that's okay.
You made it weird.
Sorry. I can't go through an episode without making something weird. Come on, man.
Yeah.
It's got to happen.
And it's goodbye to Jose.
Cheers, mates.
No, I mean it's goodbye. You're fired. No, I'm joking.
Oh no!
It's a look of shock.
I really want to know what Jose's past says in the background. Does it say Spanish ape?
Oh, no.
Spanish
Is that-
Joe.
Spanish
Joe.
Joe. Okay, that makes way more sense. It's because it's all blurry. I was like, why?
That's
Why?
just your eyesight, David. You should
Yeah.
get your eyes looked at.
Yeah,
Both
my
of us
bad.
wearing glasses. But also, guys, do not forget we now have a merch store open, and we have sold T-shirts now. People have actually bought shirts.
Yay!
I mean, you weren't surprised about. I mean, we wouldn't have brought it out if we didn't hope people would buy shirts.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
it's fucking awesome, man. I love that.
Awesome, man.
There's people walking around with those sexy, cool cotton shirts. They feel so good as well.
I would say they're a little pricey on the pricey side, but the quality is amazing. I've bought my second one now because we've got obviously the We Need a Rose logo in black and the little pocket logo one that I've got. And then Dave was like, "Well, I want a white T-shirt with the logo on it in the middle." So okay, of course you do. So Ben
I
did
just
that.
wanted the logo in the middle. Yeah.
And that was it. And then that was it. And then I was like, "Oh, summer's coming up. We don't want to be wearing black T-shirts. We want a white T-shirt." So now we have the white logo T-shirt as well. And I've just
Do we
bought
know
one of
what
those.
our fans have purchased? Which one's been the most popular one?
It is the I don't have information to that metrics in a minute.
Oh,
All I know is money is going into my account and I'm off to get my super yacht soon.
hell yeah!
Ooh.
But so the link is our pinned tweet on Twitter, where you can find us at Needed Roads, and in our bio on Instagram at We Needed Roads. Also, feel free to give us a review on your podcast platform of choice and give us a 5-star review. And you know what? Tell your friends and tell your parents. We just got a lovely comment from infrequent guest on the show, Marie from Two Girls One Usable Cup, who told us her dad's comment. What I liked about it is that it feels you're all sitting around a table discussing the show. Marie's dad. So tell your parents as well.
I love Marie's dad. He sounds like such a nice dude.
And Marie's mum as well said it was really good. And Marie's dad even commented about how good the editing was. So
Hey,
clearly
there
a
you go.
man
Well
of,
done, Neil. Well done.
clearly a man of taste.
Applause for Neil.
If you want to know the way to Neil's heart, is compliment him on his editing.
Yeah.
That's literally the day job and this job, all jobs. And also, I'd like to thank a few shout-outs to our friends and followers on Twitter who left us some comments for this episode. So thanks to Rachel Miller, Stu from Stu World Order, always contrarian, and Cage Fighting Pod, and David Palmer for their comments on this week's show. We'll see you next time.
We Needed Roads.